Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Friday night program on beginning telescopes. We'll get started with tonight's content in just a few minutes, but as always, we like to go over Kopernik, why we're here, what's our mission, and talk about how you can become a member and join our YouTube channel. So first thing, best place to find us is at kopernik.org, and that's where you can find information about upcoming programs, classes, maybe what our weather's like. Now tonight, of course, if you looked at our clear sky chart, we can do that right now. We can scroll way to the bottom of the page and see it's cloudy. Well, we didn't really need that to know. So yeah, almost overcast pretty much tonight, and some rain as well. So we're not going to be seeing too much. Of course, that comes with the nature of tonight's program too. If you hold a telescope program, it's going to be cloudy. Let's scroll back up to the top. So here's tonight's program. This is our homepage, so you'll find the upcoming events, beginning telescopes. Tomorrow we have a ham radio program called Ham Radio Field Day. So if that interests you, might be a night to come up and explore our ham radio station. Next week, we have an exciting program for International Asteroid Day, which is revisiting the DART mission. I think about a year ago now, you may have seen in the news that a spacecraft, a NASA spacecraft, crashed into an asteroid purposefully to see if they could change its orbital trajectory just through a momentum exchange. So just a tiny spacecraft smashing into an asteroid, and it happened. They measured its orbital trajectory now, and it has changed after impact. So we're going to follow up with this with Dr. Andy Rivkin, who is on the investigation team lead at Johns Hopkins University for the DART mission. So we'll look forward to that next week. Again, doors open at 8 p.m., just like tonight, and we get started at 8:30. Okay, so also, if programs like this interest you, I'm sure, actually raise your hand if you're a Kopernik member. Oh, good, about half of you. If you're not a Kopernik member, you may consider joining us. You get a lot of benefits from it, and we have different tiers. So for example, if you're a family, you can become a Galaxy member and get discounts on summer camps and classes throughout the year. Every Friday night also, our members get into the building for free. So that's another big benefit. And perhaps the biggest one is that you get access to the ASTC membership. And that's going to open up free admission and or discounted admission to observatories, science centers, and museums across the states, and there are even some international ones too. And that's hundreds of those across the states. So lots of opportunity there. For instance, you can get into the Intrepid Museum, where they house one of the space shuttles in New York City for free. Use it with the ASTC membership. So big benefit there. And you can go online and register right on our website. Okay. There's also classes and programs. We do have some summer camps spots left. If you want to scroll through this page, it'll tell you whether if there's a wait list or if there's still openings. And then finally, I want to just show you our Kopernik Observatory YouTube channel. We are actually streaming out this program tonight, so hello to the live stream audience. And actually, if I refresh this page, you'll see this go live. There it goes. So this is live. Next week's program will be every Friday night program is also a live stream. We call them our FNLs. So those are available on our channel, in addition to observing live streams as well, where we hook a camera up to our telescopes and we stream out views of major astronomical events and take you through some astrophotography lessons. We've done that in the past too. So lots of opportunity there, and you can subscribe for the latest content. But I think without further ado, we are going to get started with tonight's program. Let me bring up the presentation. There we go. And we have Art Cacciola, one of our Kopernik educators, as well as a member of the Kopernik Astronomical Society. And he's going to give a wonderful talk on beginning telescopes. So I will pass it off to you, Art.
telescopes you brought, but I wish you would have told me ahead of time. It would save me like an hour's time digging all these out. I could have just looked at yours, but that's all right. Well, you'll recognize yours. So, let's see, where am I? So actually, this is, he passed away about 2 years ago. This is Don Yeyer. Don is actually a world-class, world-famous telescope maker and eyepiece maker and designer. He and his father, and for a while his son did it too. But he had a thing about an eyepiece, so he said, "Oh, you have one of the Magnificent Beasts?" That was a really big eyepiece that he made, and it was really, really nice. So we're going to answer some questions for you, hopefully. One, if you're thinking about getting a telescope or you have a telescope, you have to decide, what do I want to look at? Because different telescopes are better at for looking at different things. The next thing is, how much do you want to spend on it? Okay, did you just win a lottery and you got all this money to burn? That's fine. That's very rare. If you have, you might have a budget. And then, is portability important? Are you going to plunk it down in an observatory and not have to move it? Or are you going to take it out and bring it to camp and take it to the grandkids, or take it out in the backyard and then bring it back into the garage or the house? Is portability important? And what about storage? You have room for it. My wife will tell you telescopes can take up a bit of room. And do you want to do it in the future? Do you want to do astrophotography? Because that opens up another set of options. So we'll talk about some general things. In general, and this is just general, okay, the rule of thumb, you want to buy the largest aperture or diameter that you can, one, afford or be within your budget, and two, can physically handle. Okay, I have a scope exactly like this, which is an 8-inch, and I have my biggest scope is like this, but it's a 10-inch. I've got friends with scopes like that that are 20 inches and 18 inches. And I've got friends with scopes like this that are 11 and 14 inches. And they carry them around and they set them up. And one guy has a trailer to haul it in. And so you want to make sure you know what you're doing. Okay, don't just look at, oh, it's great, and then just think about the ramifications. Oh, backwards, went backwards. Sorry. So you want to get the larger the aperture, which is the diameter of the mirror or the diameter of the front objective lens, the more light it gathers, giving you the ability to see dimmer objects, and also have a theoretically higher resolution, clearer picture. Okay, under good conditions, of course. There are trade-offs. The bigger the aperture, the more pricey it's going to be and the less portable. On the other hand, the smaller aperture is less expensive and more portable, and there's all trade-offs in between. Now, power is relatively meaningless. Don't go by, oh, this is a really powerful scope. It doesn't make a difference. Most telescopes, you change the eyepiece. See this eyepiece here? I could take it out of this telescope and put it in this telescope, okay? Or I could, not that was a bad example, because this is a 9.25, but these are the same. This eyepiece here, and this eyepiece here, and this eyepiece here, and even the eyepiece here are all the same. I could just change the eyepiece. Different eyepieces allow different magnification. So the bigger the number, like a 40, that's small magnification but a wide field. And a number like 25 might be more of a mid-range, an average one. You might get something higher powered like a 12 or a 10, or even go really high power and get something like a 6 or something, 8. So you can just change that for the conditions. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. So don't go by the power, because the power is made by changing the eyepiece. And the eyepieces are so interchangeable. You just buy 3 and you use them, and that's all. And then remember, a small scope with high quality optics can give you super views of the universe. Okay, so a small scope, even though it's small, if you have good quality, eyepieces. So I have one of these scopes I'll talk about a little later. It's a Galileo scope. It's like a $50 telescope today. I bought it for $25 in 2009. I put an eyepiece in there that's like a $200 eyepiece, and it's really, really a great little scope. But, you know, the eyepiece that comes with it's plastic and it's junk, okay? But you could put the real eyepiece in there. So that's the important part. All right, so what do you want to observe? Do you want to see planets like Saturn and Jupiter or even the moon? Or double stars like Albireo, the blue and orange star? Or you want to see open clusters like the Pleiades? Okay, it's also called the Subaru or the Seven Sisters. Is that what you want to see? If those are your primary targets, they're big and they're bright, so a refractor type, a refractor where the lens is in the front and the eyepiece is in the back. So these are both refractors. Lens in the front, objective lens, and you look out the back here. Okay. If you want to observe deep sky stuff, things that are much further away, like galaxies or nebulas, okay, there's Orion Nebula, or star clusters, that's an open cluster called the Pleiades, which we just talked about, and there's a globular cluster, or comets, that's, I think, Hale-Bopp. Okay? Then you're better off with the reflector, one that has a mirror in the bottom, like this or that. But we're going to talk more about that. So you want to see it all those things, the planets and the deep sky. Well, then I would recommend, unless you wanted to buy both, buying a reflector with the mirror on the bottom. Not a strict rule, but in general, you're going to get more performance per dollar, okay? Because you could get a bigger mirror than you can with the refractors. All right, so this is a refractor, one of the telescopes similar to what you saw Galileo used, okay? It has, the image is formed by an objective lens in the front. This actually has a pointer, doesn't it? Objective lens in the front. Has a clear pathway. That means light comes right through the tube. There's nothing to block it. Just clear. It has enclosed optics. It's sealed in the front by the lens, and in the back here, no dirt gets in there. That's pretty good. And then if you have a cheap lens, now this one does not have a cheap lens in the front, but if you had a cheap lens in the front, you would get what you call chromatic aberration, which basically is physics. It just means that a blue light and a red light don't focus at the same point. Blue focuses here, red focuses down here. So if you're going to see these funny colors, okay? You get a more high quality lens and you won't have that issue. So here are some refractor options. We're looking at prices here. You get a little 60 millimeter, like something like this, okay? I think that one's like $80, okay? Or you could get a better one like that for about $1,000, but that's not that one. I don't have a good example of a good expensive one here. In the back, your 60 millimeter in the back is pretty good. 80 millimeter equatorial mount. This is a German equatorial mount. We'll talk more about that a little later on. They're going to start costing you $140 to over $2,000, depending on the quality. It's like a car. You could buy a little tiny Honda or Toyota or whatever, or you could buy a really big, expensive Hummer or whatever. They're both going to get you someplace, but they're different qualities. And then there's the 120. This is a 120, by the way. And that's about, well, that one was closer to $1,000, but you can get them for $560 to $4,000 and more. And then if you go out in the observatory, and I hope you will later on, it's not going to be clear, but we can still show you what we have. You have the larger aperture. We actually have an astrophysics 6-inch. Astrophysics is like the Rolls-Royce of telescopes. It's old and classic and really well crafted. One man makes them all. Roland Christian, he makes all of them. He's repairing ours right now, and we just waiting months to get it fixed. So if you want one, that's like $14,000, but you gotta get on the waiting list. It's like, I think it's 8 years old, 8 years long now. It was longer before COVID, and then it shortened up, and then it went longer again. So now, if you want it, you have to consider the cost, because refractors cost more for a given size. So this is like about a 5-inch 120. So a 5-inch refractor, as opposed to a 6-inch reflector, that's going to be much more expensive than that. Okay. Astrophotography means you need a more expensive mount. You can't use this type of mount for astrophotography, nor this type of mount. You have to have something like one of these mounts, okay, or one of those mounts in particular, because it has to track. So here's what you did do here. There's a regular camera, digital camera, film camera, and it doesn't make a difference. You buy an adapter that's the right size, and you take out your eyepiece, and you put your camera on the back of the telescope, and your telescope becomes your eyepiece. It's called prime focus, and that's basic astrophotography. But because you have that really powerful lens, as the Earth is rotating, after like 15 seconds or less, you're going to start getting streaks. Okay, because it's going to, so you need a mount with a clock drive that actually turns at the same rate that the Earth is rotating, okay, to keep it in a certain spot. So the optics of a reflector, so this is a reflector here, okay, and as is this one too, believe it or not. There's a mirror on the bottom, okay, so there's a mirror on the bottom. The mirror is, well, let me go here, a curved mirror, okay. So the mirror gathers light, and because it's curved, it reflects light back up in a cone. So light comes straight in, but then it goes back in a cone, tapering down. Okay. It has an obstructed pathway. Remember the refractor had no obstruction. This one has the spider and the secondary blocking your view right here. So you're getting, light's not going through. So there's an obstruction. There's an open pathway. This tube right here, you can stick your hand in it. Okay, there's nothing in there to block it. Okay, so you got to keep it covered, otherwise you get all this dirt and dust on it. Didn't I just say that? Folded pathway. So this telescope, in effect, the light comes down the tube, hits the mirror, bounces back up to back here where there's that secondary, another mirror at an angle, and it shoots the light from down there up the eyepiece. So this telescope is, in effect, twice as long. So if this was like that, it would have to be really, really long. Okay? So it's called a folded pathway. And then there's no chromatic aberration. There's none of that false colors with the blue and the red. It's a bit more difficult to point, some of them in particular. This one isn't so bad because you just kind of, sight along it like it's a cannon. Works pretty well. But some of them, like this one here, the AstroScan, has the curved mirror on the bottom, and it's a little harder because you can't really get down here to sight it. You have to kind of estimate it a little differently. All right. Some refractor options. This is a simple Dobsonian mount. So there was a gentleman named John Dobson. He lived out in California. He was famous for doing sidewalk astronomy. He'd go out in the bright lights of downtown San Francisco, plunk a telescope down in the corner, and say, hey, you want to look at the moon, you want to look at Jupiter, you want to look at Saturn, and people would come and look at it. And he got people really interested. So there was a lot of port glass in the harbor down there, and he would get the students to grab a piece of that glass, and they would polish it and make the mirror for that. And then they made tubes. The tubes This is a metal one, but a lot of the telescopes are sonotubes. You know the tubes you pour cement in for forms? That's what they're made out of, and they just paint them, okay? So they put that, and then they make the diagonal and all that stuff. But they had to buy an expensive amount like this, and they couldn't afford that. So he came up with this idea of, he has a real name for it, and I'm embarrassed I don't remember what he told me the name was. But he never liked it being called a Dob, after John Dobson. But anyway, it goes simply up and down, right and left. Now, how hard the scope is to use? Well, you got to take the lens cap off, and it's black. So you put it under here. Otherwise, you're going to step on it, okay? Now, you look at something. Oh, what's that up there? I don't know. Is that Saturn? Got to take the lens caps off. Kind of point it about there. Then get down here and say, oh, that's too high. And then get the, can't see it. Okay. Get it in there, and once you get it in there, you come in here and you focus, and you're looking at it. It's that simple. It's that really, really simple. It's a great design. So it's called a Dob mount, a D-O-B, after John Dobson. He actually was in Kopernik a couple of times. And how do I say this? Roy, where's Roy? John Dobson and I slept in the same bed. But it was about 20 years different. Okay. We both stayed at my friend Roy's house. And when John was here one time, he stayed in that bed. And then when I stayed with him in 2017 for the eclipse. So it was like, kind of a joke. But anyway. So a small one, this is a 6-inch, goes for like $130 to $500. A bigger one, which is an 8-inch, goes for $550 to about $850. And these prices I got just last couple of days. A bigger one, like my 10-inch, goes for towards $1,000 to $1,700. Prices after COVID jumped a lot. The 6-inch used to be like $400. This used to be like $250, $300, but not anymore. So, a bigger one is like even more, okay? And you can get really expensive ones as well, but we won't go into that with the beginning class. So then we have a third type of telescope, which is kind of it's similar to this but different. So we have, this is not a Quest Star, but it's just like a Quest Star. This is a 90 millimeter Meade ETX. Back there, one of you have a 70 millimeter Meade ETX. It's like, it's a Russian design, and it's a really nice little telescope. But let me get my clicker if I can remember where I stuck it. There you go. So it has what you call folded optics. We already know what that is, right? When light goes back and forth. The image is formed by multiple mirrors and lenses. So it's not just one mirror, multiple mirrors and lenses. It's a closed system. It doesn't have a thing here. There's a plate on the front. It's a plate right there in the front. It's a plate right here as well. So it keeps it clean inside. It's compact. It's much smaller. So when we look at the design of the folded optics, I'll show you a little bit more. It's medium to high price. So in the design, so this is the front of the telescope where that corrector plate is. Light comes down the tube just like in this one. Hits the same type of curved mirror on the bottom. Okay. Now this time the light goes up in a cone like it did before. But this time in the very center here, on mine I made these white so you could see them. So you see that right there? The back of that is a mirror. So when the light comes in, goes down, hits the mirror down the bottom, and then it goes right back up and hits the back of that plate in the front. And then it goes straight back down and comes right out here for the eyepiece. So this telescope is in effect 3 times as long. It goes down and back up and then down again. So it's like 3 times as long. So it's compact design. All right, so, oh, I'm sorry. How did I do that? Thank you.
I'm not sure why that happened.
No, I kind of fumbled over there. I probably did it. So there are 2 terms that sound a little bit alike, but they're way different. There's go-to and it's grab and go. Basically, a grab and go telescope means that you're going on the plane and you want to take something with you. It's light. You can put it in your suitcase. Or you want to just go outside, take it camping. Just want to go. You just grab it, throw it in the trunk, and go. Okay? And then there's the go-to. So the grab and go, quick and easy, minimum practice. It's great beginner, smaller, easy to handle. The go-to, it sounds easy. So this is a go-to, and so is this. They both have computers with databases, okay? And once you get it set up, you push the buttons here and say, okay, I want to see M13. So you punch it in, and M13, it goes, and it moves, and you're looking at M13. That's so cool, except it's not that easy because it requires practice, and you have to set it up first. So this one here, when I get mine like this and I take it, I have to first set this straight like this, and I have to kind of point it towards Polaris, the North Star. Okay? All right, that's not too hard. And then once I get that there, as soon as it gets dark and I can see Polaris, I have to fine-tune the adjustments. There are 2 knobs here and 2 knobs here, and get it so Polaris is right in the center. Okay? And then, okay, that's not terrible, but it's not as easy as you think, but it's not terrible. So then it says, okay, you want to do an alignment. Okay, yeah, I want to do an alignment. So you hit the button. So it says 2-star, yeah, okay. So it says, all right, I'm going to Arcturus, okay? So it goes, okay, I'm at Arcturus, it thinks. It's not. It never is, okay? But it thinks it's at Arcturus. So then you look in the wide field, and you say, oh, there's Arcturus over there. Okay, so you start moving the telescope, and it moves. Then you get it centered in here. Then you have to get it centered in the finder scopes. Then you hit enter. Then you look in the eyepiece, and it's in there usually, but not centered. So you center it a little more carefully, and then hit align, and you got 1 star. All right, good. Now you hit it again. It gives you, okay, now let's go find Spica. Okay, so it goes, okay. It's still not there, but it's closer. At least it's in my finder now. I look in there, okay, it's off to the side. Do the same thing, I align it, and then I, get it centered, then I do it in the eyepiece here, and I get it right on. Okay, that's all you have to do. But then I usually do 4 more stars, called calibration stars. But by the time you do 2 or 3 more, as you slew it to the next star, it's like pretty much right, almost perfectly centered. And what that means, if I don't move my scope, I wouldn't have it on wheels, by the way. I'd have it. If I don't move the scope all weekend, when I do astronomy, we go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come home Sunday. Okay, it's going to be good. Okay, so I just push the button. I want to see M13, and it goes in. It's right there. Almost always right in the eyepiece. Maybe not always perfectly centered, but it's in the eyepiece. So that's great. But it's hard to do. A lot of people buy these go-to, they spend the extra money, and it's so frustrating, so hard for them that they never really get to use it. So that's a problem. But it's not something you can't overcome. You just have to know what you're doing. All right, now I went backwards, didn't I? Okay. So changing eyepieces. So you want to get a set of 2 or 3 eyepieces. Usually start with a low power, wide angle eyepiece, and you find the object because it's easier to find because it's smaller and it's easier to find. And then you center it right in the dead center, and you look at it. And, okay, that's pretty good. Then you get the medium power eyepiece, and you put it in. And again, you look at it and you focus it and you center it really good. Then you take that out and put the high power eyepiece in and look at it. Now you're looking at all the craters and the mountains and all this other stuff, or you're looking at the rings really close, or whatever you're looking at. and then that's high power. But if you put the telescope on high power and you try to find something, not the moon or something like something small, it's going to be really hard to find. So you want to start wide, go medium, then go high. Okay. So depending on the sky and the conditions of the atmosphere, you want to use the highest power that works. So people often ask me, what's the magnification? I don't know. I just put it in. I just put them in until it looks good. Till I keep making it higher power until it doesn't look good. It starts looking fuzzy. Then I take that one out and put the last one back in. They want to know what the magnification is. I got to look at my telescope and say, okay, this is a how many millimeters, whatever it is, 950 millimeters. Then I have to divide it by 10 because that's the eyepiece, and I get, okay, it's 95 power. I could tell them. You can figure it out, but I don't care. I just look at it till it looks good, and I keep putting more power on it. And if you have a good night, especially if you're looking up high and not looking low through all the atmosphere, there's a lot of atmosphere. When you're looking low, you're looking through a lot of, atmosphere. When you're looking high, you're just looking straight up what's above you. So if you have good seeing, you can put much higher power. Then we have a device called a Barlow. Got one of those. And I saw some of you had Barlows. This is an older one, but it's a big one. So this is a device. You just take this out, put it in where the eyepiece goes. That's for this one. And then you put the eyepiece right in top here. And this is actually a 3 times Barlow. Most of them are like 2 times. But you can get them up, even higher than that. But it doubles or triples the magnification without buying another eyepiece. Is it as high a quality as a second eyepiece? No, but it's a lot cheaper. And this works with any eyepiece. So it's a good alternative, especially early on. All right, and then there's the moon filters. So the moon is a really cool thing to look at. But astronomers, it's the last thing we look at in the night, or else you look at it with your bad eye, because you're going to be blind in your eye for a while because it's so bright. So you look in your bad eye, or you wait till later on to look at it. But they have these filters they were actually called moon filters. They're actually neutral density filters. That's like greenish color, and they make it dimmer so it doesn't hurt your night vision. Okay, because when your eyes are adapted to the dark after like 20 minutes or so, your irises open up and let more light in so you can see dimmer things. But as you look at something bright, they shut down again. Okay, so you try to watch bright things like the moon. All right, so finder scopes. With some telescopes in particular, it's very difficult to point a scope without a finder. So this one has a finder. It's called the red dot finder. I'll pass one around, actually. This is a little more complex, but take the cover off, make it easier. So this is just a red dot. You look through that clear opening, and you see a red dot in the center. Okay? It's low power, so there it is, red dot. There's not a scope. There's no magnification. It's just looking straight through. But I like that because you can see the sky, and you can see right where stuff is because you just look away and then, oh, there it is, and you get the dot right on it. Okay. When you get higher magnification, it's harder to do that. So usually these are low power, like 6 times or 8 times. They're always parallel to the scope. This is a different one. This is called a Telrad. I like this on my bigger scopes. It's very similar to a red dot, except it has a target with rings inside of it. So I could get closer and closer and see it. Plus it's bigger. All right. So before you observe, so we're talking about you have a telescope. Before you observe, you want to go outside on a terrestrial object in the daytime. That means something on Earth. Okay? Not up in the sky, just something there. You want to try to find something that's far away and distinct, such as a cell tower or a silo. Okay? If you look at a tree, there are lots of trees, and do I have the right tree? And lots of times you think you do, but you don't. And don't ever do it with a star, because definitely you're going to have the wrong star. Okay? Except for Polaris, because Polaris is a double star, so that kind of validates, okay, this is the right one. But anyway, So you want to use one of the two large focus knobs on each side of the focuser. So there's this one here, okay? There's these knobs right there. This one has the same thing. It has the knobs on either side. This one also has the knobs. This one also has the knobs. This one here has a different knob. It's down here because it actually moves the mirror, but it's still a knob that you would move to focus. So you want to rack it out, okay? So it's coming out like this, because the further out it is, the closer you're going to see something. This is designed to look at things at infinity, okay, like the moon and stars and stuff. So when you're looking at something on the Earth, you want to really pull this all the way out. As a matter of fact, from here, if I was way at the door out there and I put the telescope on the floor, I could see this. I could see the screen, but it's blurry because it's too close. Okay, I've done it lots of times. So, but anyway, if you get something far away like a tower or a unique tree maybe or something, you want to focus it all the way out, and then try to focus it. When observing things later in the sky, you will need to move it focus back inward. Okay, so practice that focus. But when you get outside, look at the stars, you look up there, you say, I don't see anything. That's because it's focused way out of focus. You got to remember to crank it back in. Align the telescope finder. So I consider it very important to align this and this before it gets dark. So before it gets dark, I get my telescope and I set it up, and I look at something. I look at something in here. Okay, there's the top of that tower. Okay, got it right in the center on that red dot. I look in the eyepiece. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Then I try to find it and get it in the eyepiece. All right, there it is, right in the eyepiece, right in the center. Now I adjust this here. Usually 3 screws. Adjust this up and down, right and left, kind of trial and error, and move it. And then you get this aligned with this. So now when you look in here, the center dot's same as this. That means at night, when you go to use it, you see that star or that planet, you just get that little red dot right on it, and you're looking right at it. Okay? This one too, the tail rad, I do the same thing. I do the same thing with this. This has these 2 screws. The tail rad has 3 screws down back here. Oh, thank you. Just going to shut it off because. Okay. So center the object, low eyepiece. Look in the finders. Try to get. Some of them have crosshairs, some don't. So some of these have 2 screws, and some have 2 screws and a spring-loaded screw, and some have 3 screws, and some of them have 6 screws, like this one. Okay, that's harder to get, but it gives you more flexibility too. So we want to get that. Just the knobs, finder, to align 2 views. All right. Now mounts. Told you we talk a little bit more about it. Different mounts have different axes of rotation. So an equatorial mount, like this one, or this one, will actually, now things rise in the east and set in the west. It's like an arc. Things start low, they go up high, and they come down again. This scope will actually follow that arc. So once you get an object in there, you just turn the one knob, and it's going to move just in that direction, in that arc, and follow it across the sky. The other ones are what you call altas, or up and down, left and right. Okay, and that's easier to do, but it's hard to track. It's really not hard to do. It just won't work with like an automatic. So here's something really important. A mount can make or break a good telescope. So keep it solid and stable. So this mount here, see that? It's loose. It's like a little floppy. It's going to make it hard. It's still going to work, but it's not going to be as good as something like this. Okay. So you want to spend the money on the mount. It's like buying a car, a really nice car, and putting really tiny little bicycle tires on it. Okay, it's just not going to work as well. All right. So some warning. It's like buying a boat. You could end up chasing the rabbit down the rabbit hole. It can become a big money pit. Okay, I can tell you when I bought my canoe. Okay, I bought the canoe. Well, then I had to get paddles. Okay, and life jackets. Okay, and racks to put it on the roof. And I had to get the whistle and all the different things. And by the time I got done, I spent more money than I spent on the canoe. You know, so you gotta know what you're getting into. So here are some gizmos, some cool things. You have webcams. Okay, you recognize the old webcam. We use webcams on, take the eyepiece. Remember I showed you how to mount the camera on the back? The webcam goes right in the eyepiece, and then it captures thousands of frames. So you take a picture of Saturn, which is going in and out of focus because of the seeing, and you capture like 4,000 frames, okay, in a couple of minutes. Then your computer says, all right, give me the best 10%. So you get 400 frames, and now those are clear. And you put them all together, and you get a really good image. Okay, that's a webcam. The CCD camera, okay, we use that at Kopernik. Like here's an FLI one, like we have at Kopernik. By the way, that's made in Binghamton, Finger Lakes Instruments. High quality CCD camera. We have digital cameras, okay, that you get, take the lens off, put that attachment on, again, hook it right into your camera, eyepiece. Go-to telescopes, we talked about some of those. Binocular eyepieces. So they're called bino viewers or binocular eyepieces. It actually goes right in the eyepiece, but it becomes two. And if you know about the science, you can see better with two eyes than you can see with either eye. You can look at this and you could have like, you can't quite read that, and look on this eye, you can't quite read that. Look, both eyes together, you can read it. Well, how can that be? Neither eye is that good. But together, your brain puts it together, and it can do it. So bino viewers, some people really like them. Additional eyepieces. So I told you start with 2, maybe 3. After a while, Mark, you have like 10. Joe, you probably have 30. You just accumulate them. You get more powerful ones, more wide-angle ones. You don't ever need them all, but you have them. And then solar scopes. They have ones that look designed only to look at the sun. Now, I'm going to tell you this. You never point your telescope at the sun or binoculars because it'll make you go blind, okay? 2 stories. One is a guy at Binghamton University was looking. He had those eclipse glasses to look at the sun. They're safe to look at the sun with like this. But he put his binoculars like this, and he burned 2 holes right through the thing. Luckily, it didn't hit his eye because it would have made him blind. Another story is we have a big one of these scopes in the dome, a 6-inch scope, and someone had the cap on the back but not the cap on the front, and they were looking at the sun with a special filter. Well, again, the sun came through that finder scope and burned a hole right through the other cap. Okay, so never look at it unless you have a special filter, and they sell those and more. All right, so the webcam with a laptop is the cheapest way to do astrophotography. All right, here's another simple option. A nice pair of binoculars, a lounge chair, and a star hopping book. What's a star hopping book? Okay, so go-to will go there all by itself. But I want to see the Ring Nebula. Okay, well, I got to go up there and find Vega. There's Vega, and I got to go look in the 2 stars down here, and then I go down the middle there, and I point there, and I'm looking at the Ring Nebula. You never see it, but if you know where to look and point your telescope, it's right there. Another example that you'll know better. Orion the Hunter, the 3 stars in the belt. You look down below the belt, about this much, and you'll see a glowing area. That's the Orion Nebula. You can see it naked eye, but put a telescope on it. It really looks cool. Okay, so you just star hop. You know, well, it's near Orion, it's below the belt, and then say you find it. They have great books on that. So get familiar with your telescope. Learn what each knob does. Hardest thing is finding these knobs in the dark. You know, now they're not always here because when the telescope's like this, the knob's in a different place. Even this, sometimes the telescope, it will swing around and go like that on you, and everything's different. It's like a whole different orientation. So you got to learn it. This is more complicated, so I can't even find it when I'm looking. I put white glow tape on mine, so it works good. I can find them. Don't over tighten, just snug. You don't want to force it down. And then keep the optics clean, but you have to clean it very carefully. Okay, so best way is just keep the covers on. Just keep the covers on when you can, and that will keep things cleaner. Even sometimes just a plastic bag will work fine. Practice in the daylight. All right, so then we're get familiar with the sky. We have constellations. You know what they are: Orion, the Big Dipper, or Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and Taurus the Bull, and there are a bunch of ones there. The North Star, Polaris. The important thing about Polaris and North Star, where is it first place? Well, find the Big Dipper. See the handle? See the bowl? There's the handle of the bowl. If you follow the two front bowl stars across the sky about 2.5 times, it's the tail of the Little Dipper, the little bowl. Okay, and that's Polaris and North Star. And the significant thing about the North Star is, you know how the Earth is tilted on its axis 23 degrees? So if you're at the North Pole, you look straight above you, that's Polaris. And then we're tilted down at, what are we, 42 degrees? So at 42 degrees, you look up, and that's where the North Star is. Because it's where the Earth, do it this way so you can see. There's the North Star right there. As the Earth rotates, everything goes around that central point. And the Big Dipper will be here, then it'll be here, then it'll be here, then it'll be here, and in 24 hours will be backward started. Okay? But the North Star is always in the same place. So if you go out sometime when it's clear, not today, not tomorrow, but maybe the day after, and you actually tomorrow night, between 10 and 11, it's going to be clear for a little while. So go out there, find a Big Dipper, find the two front stars, go across, find Polaris. Once you find Polaris, it's always in the same place, every day of the year, every hour of the day. It's always in that same spot. The only thing that is the same is Polaris. Okay? That's why when you line up your telescope, we use Polaris. So at my house, I go out my kitchen door, look to the right, and I look above the big maple tree. There's Polaris. Every day, all the time, same place. North Star. Okay. The ecliptic. The ecliptic is the path that the sun takes across the sky every day. Rises in the east and sets in the west. Well, along that same path that the ecliptic, where the sun follows, the moon takes basically the same path, and so do all the planets. So if you want to see Jupiter or Saturn or the moon, look in that same arc that the sun took. They're always that way. You'll always see them in that arc, okay, called the ecliptic. There are free star maps. I'm going to give everybody, Mark, could you give everybody a couple of those? I made more than I needed by mistake. Anyway, you get a free star map. It's at skymaps.com. They allow you to print one free every month. Okay? You can buy them, but you can print one free every month. And if you have a job like me where you're an educator, you just write to them and say, hey, and they gave me a license. I could print 100 of them a month. I never do, but I just did 25. But I hand them out like this. Okay? So their coordinates, right ascension, declination. All right. So I need one of those back, Mark, when you get a chance. Thank you. So when you look at this map, you see where it says north on top? If that's north, what's down below? South. South. That's good. Now, if north is up on top and south is below, shouldn't that be east? But it's west. What do you want? It's free. No. No, that's just my joke. I'm a retired teacher. I have all these stupid jokes. So a map on the road is like this, but a star map is like this. So you point it to the north, and the south's behind you. Well, actually, this is the north. The south's behind you. And now you look, hey, east and west are right now. Okay? So every month this is mapped. And this tells you different things that are happening during the month. On the back, it tells you things you can see naked eye, things you can see in binoculars, things you can see in a telescope. It's really cool. I print this every month, and I keep it in my pocket, believe it or not. I do. You don't believe me? I do. I really have it in my pocket. Want to see it? Here. Here it is. Okay. My sky map. I know. I have a lot of junk in my pockets, so. Isn't that what they're for? Anyway. So read the manual. You learn to use your new scope. Read the manual at least a little bit. If you can, get someone to help. It's like anything. If someone knows what they're doing, they could show you. Like tonight, we have about half a dozen KAS members here. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us here. We'll help you do your scope because we know what we're doing, hopefully. Okay, and get someone to help you. Make a red flashlight. You can buy a red flashlight for $10, or you can get a dollar store flashlight that has a cap that could unscrew it, take the lens, the clear lens out, and get a piece of that red cellophane. We have it here. You just bring your flashlight some night. We'll let you cut a piece of cellophane out, cut it out with the scissors, and put it back together, and you have a red flashlight for nothing, you know. So just to join the astronomy club. You're welcome to join our group, the KAS, Kopernik Astronomical Society. Take an astronomy class or course. That'd be good too. Or you could visit an observatory like Kopernik. Hey, that sounds cool. And you can also read some books. So here's Kopernik. That's before we painted the domes. I have to update that picture, Jeremy. All right. So people often ask me, I have too many scopes. If you don't believe me, ask my wife. Which is my best scope? So, which is your favorite? So I could tell you which is my most expensive scope. And I could tell you which is my easiest to use scope and all that. I can tell you all the different reasons I have each scope. One for the sun, one for this, one for that, one for taking when I do astronomy camp, and one for just grabbing going. But the one that's really the best is the one that you're going to use the most. I have a scope like this. I use that scope more often, except for this little one, than any other telescope. I could just grab it, set it down, and use it. Where if I take that, it's 20 minutes or half an hour to set it up before I can really start using it. Some of the other ones are much faster. So think about that when you're thinking about a telescope, at least in the beginning. All right, which one will you use, and which one will you just spend a lot of money for and get frustrated and put in the closet? Okay. So we have here the 120 refractor. You can look through this scope. It has what you call slow motion controls, so it moves up and down, right and left. So when you're looking at something in the eyepiece, you can kind of center it as you look in it. It's kind of neat. So then that's out of production now. They don't make that one right now. But the 90 millimeters, this is a 120. This is like 3/4 as much. It's $350, but it comes with free shipping. The tripod, the basic tripod, the diagonal, which is the thing here, the finder, and 2 eyepieces. So that's what that was. The Skywatcher 6, like this, Dob, is easiest to use and set up. Again, free shipping, but the new ones don't come with the finder scope or the eyepieces. You got to add on. Yeah, I bought an electric chainsaw today. Yesterday. Okay. Chainsaw was like $279. Pretty good. You know what? Doesn't come with a battery. Doesn't come with a charger. I had to pay another $120. So I could buy the chainsaw, but it doesn't take AA batteries to D-cells. I have to buy their special battery, and I need their special charger. And it was like, wow. So anyway, it's like a gimmick. So anyway, they kept the price down by taking away things you ended up having to buy anyway. Then there's the Meade ETX90. This is a nice scope. I actually own 2 of these. All right, why do I own so many? I was a school teacher. I had an astronomy club, and I didn't want my kids to be standing around not looking. So when we had a star party, I had like 6 or 8 telescopes, and every kid could look through it, and had each kid learn how to operate all the different ones. But this is a nice little go-to scope. Actually, we're selling this one. It's used. We're selling it for $250. The current price on it's $560, but that's not a brand new one. That's used. But that's a nice little scope. And you have the 70 back there. I saw it. I don't know where it is. Okay. Thank you. There's the department store telescope. This you might call a department store telescope, something you'd find. It's not that expensive, but it works. It's not the highest quality. But I'll tell you another story. I'm full of stories. I went to Maine years ago with my wife, of course, and my kids, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and my other sister-in-law and brother-in-law, and their kids. And they said, I asked my wife, I said, I think I want to bring a telescope. She said, no, we don't have room. Don't want to bring a telescope. So I didn't bring a telescope. So we get up to Maine with those nice dark skies, and all my nephews and nieces are saying, Uncle Artie, where's the telescope? I didn't bring it. So I went to a local store called Mr. Mike's or something. I forget what it was called. It was like a bargain store. And for $10, I bought this little tiny tabletop telescope. It was like a little tiny tripod. It was like this high up off the ground. Okay? Well, believe it or not, you got down on my hands and my knees, and I could show them all the planets in that little tiny telescope. Now, you couldn't touch it, because as soon as you touch it, it started going like that. But if you didn't touch it, just looked in it, it was great. So even a little $10 telescope can do it. But it may be a little frustrating. You might want something more quality. Okay? On the other hand, there's the Galileo scope. So I like this scope. Anybody that's been to Joe, you looked through mine, right? You've looked through it. It's a kit. Okay, actually, in this very room in 2009, I had 40 people assembling this in family groups at the same time. It's just two sides, and it goes together. You put all the instructions are right there, and it's great. The thing is, it was designed for the International Year of Astronomy in 2009, and it was commissioned by two world-class telescope makers, the International IDA, not the IDA, International Year of Astronomy. Okay. Anyway, they commissioned those two guys, to design a telescope. They wanted to have a telescope that was $5 that they could give to every kid in the world. They couldn't do it. Okay? So they did this. Ended up costing $12.50 when you bought 100 of them. What did I say? $25 when you bought one. Okay? Today it's twice as much. You buy 100, it's $25, and you want to buy one, it's $49 or $50. But it has a really good objective, a good glass lens in there. And if you take out that crummy eyepiece, plastic one they give you, it really has some nice views. It's small, but it's a nice beginner. And the other thing I didn't show you, I should have shown you, is it has a 1/4-20 socket on the bottom. So any camera tripod, just screw it onto the camera tripod, and that's your mount. It's really simple. It's a nice little scope. So, used scopes. You don't have to buy new. You could buy used. If you buy one and you decide you want to move up, you could sell it and go up to a bigger scope or a different scope. Scopes tend to hold their value. Good quality scopes hold their value. Eyepieces are standard. We already talked about that. Mark told some of you before, there are two basic sizes, 1.25 inch, and there's the 2-inch. And of course, there are those department store ones that have the 0.965 size, which is smaller. But in general, there are two sizes, and the eyepieces just last forever. They usually don't wear out. Just be careful with it. There are also places called Astromart. It's kind of like an eBay, but only for astronomy. You have to pay a $15 a year fee, but you can buy used stuff there from reputable people. Okay, you can read the ratings and all that. And Kopernik has some used scopes to sell. For example, we're selling this one for $250. We're selling this one for $150. That one's already sold for $50. But we use. And what do we do with the money? We buy new equipment, more telescopes. Here's a Questar, the one I told you like this. That was from 1982. Today, he's selling it for almost $3,000. He's selling for more than he paid for it, okay? And they have ones that go back in the 70s. The new ones today, well, you'll see it on a future slide, what the new ones today go for. This is the orange version of this. This is the same scope, the C8, but this is the newer version. This is from the 90s. That one's from the 80s and the 70s. That C8 still selling for $725, okay? And doesn't have as nice a mount. There's that one right there. Just this part, not the mount. The mount alone is about $1,000, but just this part, selling for $750 with one eyepiece and the Telrad. Okay. So where can I go to get help deciding which scope to get? Come up to Kopernik, talk to one of the KS guys. We'd be happy to give you advice. Okay. We all have different preferences. Okay. Just like some people like Chevy, some people like Ford, some people like Honda. But we all have valid reasons. Where can I get some help to learn how to use the telescope? Here. We're going to help you tonight. Okay. It's going to be raining outside. I'll have to do it inside, but we'll do it. And where can I get someone to help me find a scope? You come here again. We'll get on the websites. We could look in different places, see what you might want to get. By the way, we're having our annual Astrofest here in October on the 6th and 7th. It's our 41st year in a row. $6 admission, be Friday night and also Saturday. There'll be speakers, demos, viewing in the day with solar and at night with the sky. Okay, there's a place called spaceweather.com. It's a neat website. I downloaded this today. It talked about a flare. So last week I was in the dark skies looking, and I didn't see it, but two of my friends saw aurora. Okay, but apparently there's aurora the next night too, and I still didn't see it because I didn't look for it. But well, that next night was raining, so that's a good reason. So anyway, there was just on the 20th. Today's what? The 23rd. There was a CME, a coronal mass ejection. Okay, but it didn't go towards the Earth. But still, there are solar flare alerts, so you might catch a solar flare. So look to the north. You might see the aurora borealis. It takes usually a couple, 3 days to hit the Earth. Okay? So that's a cool website. There's another one here called Heavens Above. So you click on Heavens Above, and then you go up here. Oh, what'd you do? All right. You click over here, and you put in your location. You click on the line right there, and you put in your location. We just put in, actually I didn't do it, but Jeremy put it in for me. He put in Vestal, New York, and it came up with this. And then it comes up with these menus. Okay, there's the ISS one. So I went to the ISS page. These are ISS passes right over Vestal. And if you look, there are none. Geez, keep hitting that button. There are none tonight. Tomorrow night, so the lower the number, the brighter it is. Okay? So tomorrow night, it's going to be negative 1.8. But it's not going to get very high. It's going to be like 11 degrees. So it's going to be right in the tree line probably. And the same thing the next night. But the night after that, it's going to be negative 3.5. And it's going to be up a little higher. This one you will see. But the week after that, on the 28th and the 29th, it's up 49 degrees and it's almost negative 4. That's really, really, really bright. Okay, so you'll be able to see the space shuttle. Most of you that have been here when it goes over, you've seen it outside. It's cool. You see it, and it comes, all of a sudden it appears over there. You watch you moving across the sky. It moves kind of slow, kind of almost slower than this. It moves across the sky, and then all of a sudden it just fades out. Okay, it's pretty neat. So this will tell you when they're going to be. There's a program here called Stellarium, and I'm not going to go into that now, but it's a great astronomy program. It's free. Did I tell you it's free? It's free. Okay, you could load it on a Windows machine, load it on a Mac, or you could do it on not Unix. Jeremy, what am I trying to say? Linux. Thank you. Any of those formats will work. tell you how good it is. Years ago, where I lived, I only had dial-up. Then I got DSL, wow. But when I had dial-up, it took 25 hours to download. I started it on Sunday morning. It ran all day Sunday till Monday, and I still did it because it was worth it. It was a great program. Today, it downloads in like 5 minutes. We have high-speed internet connections and stuff. It's great, and it's free. Did I tell you that? Okay. It's called Stellarium.org, not Stellarium.com, Stellarium.org. Okay? It's in the computer lab. Later on, we'll show it to you if you'd like to see it. There are also apps. Some of them are free. Some of them are free. Some of them you have to pay for. But this Sky Safari, Stellarium, the phone Stellarium isn't as good, in my opinion. But it's still there. And I don't know. I think you have to pay for the phone Stellarium. But this Compass, WeatherBug, Clear Sky Chart, the Moon, all these different, there are thousands of apps, okay? So just ask some of the guys what apps you use, and they'll tell you. I gave you one of these already, right? And there's the back with the stuff. And then this is the Clear Sky Chart. Jeremy showed you that before. This is tonight. But tomorrow night, remember I said? So there's 21, that's 9 o'clock. 22 is 10 o'clock. See a little bit of darkish color? That means the sky's going to clear up for about an hour and a half, maybe, if you know. So he's actually more accurate than our local weather forecast. So a lot of astronomers go by this guy. So here's some other things. I got this today off the internet. There's a Dobsonian like this. So I run here a Girl Scout Astronomy Club out of Kopernik. And we have an 8-inch like this. And we have this one here, the Cacciola 8-inch. And actually, for 2 years in a row, it was voted the #1 telescope. Okay? And we bought one. We have one of those. Now it's like $700. Back then it was like $500, but still. The 130, someone has a 130 back there. That's going for $475. An 80, a little bigger than that, going for $249. Now the one back there, okay, that's $600. Okay. That switch, yeah, it did. Okay, there's a 114, kind of like this, $269. This one's a different brand. That's Celestron. This is a lesser known brand. They're called Infinity, but it's $150 used. We have another 130, another 114, but that's a higher quality one. See, this one has the simple mount. This one has the more complex mount, okay, the German equatorial mount. So that's really worth even more. Another Celestron, a little smaller. And then there's another 130. And I want to get to this, because we ordered one of these for you. So what that's going to be is you're going to put it down in the yard outside, turn it on. It's going to go up and take a picture of the sky. And from the picture of the sky, it sees where the stars are. With the computer, it matches that pattern of stars so it knows where it is. Then you tell it where you want to go, and it starts taking pictures. Then you get your cell phone out, and 10 people with a cell phone or a tablet log into the Wi-Fi of that telescope, and you can see the pictures on your phone. And it takes a second picture and a third picture. And it takes like 40 or 50 pictures. And the picture keeps getting better and better because it's stacking it together. It's like really great. So we ordered one of those, but they're not made yet. We saw the prototype at the show, and we ordered it. But it's might be here in August. We'll see. But look for it. So that's some of the things we use our money for. And then there's the 10-inch Obscura. So here's some other ones to give you an example. It's a different company, Skywatcher. They have some sales on during June. They have a 6-inch Dob like this for less than $400. They have the 8-inch for $550, and you can go bigger and bigger, but I don't think you want to go too big. Some magazines. I'm not telling you any. I get actually 3 or 4 astronomy magazines. Only 2 of which I pay for. The other 2 come free. But I get Sky and Telescope's one of the ones I get. You can get it digitally for a year for $35.95. I don't like reading stuff digitally. I like it in my hand. So I get the magazine for $56, but I have it. Then I have something to recycle Doc. So basically, any questions that you have? Because we're going to look at your scopes now. Come up and look at these scopes, because that's the end of my presentation. So.
Okay, did we have any questions? Okay, I'm actually going to bring the mic to you so the live stream can hear the question.
Is it recommended to use to buy a used lens?
So is it recommended to buy a what?
A used lens?
A used lens. I have bought quality lenses used and saved a lot of money. So unless they have a scratch or defect, and they don't, the place I'm talking about where I buy them, if you ever sold something that you didn't say, hey, there's a scratch on it, not on the lens, then no one would buy it. A scratch on the barrel or there's some defective, they'll blackball you, okay? And you don't want that. So it's very reputable. Other times I just look at it. So yes, I buy a lot of used stuff personally, and that way I could get higher quality. Because again, it doesn't wear out. It's a lens. It's glass. Unless someone did something to abuse it, it doesn't. Any other questions? All right. So yes.
Some people might be wondering what the point of the red flashlight is.
Oh, thank you, Alan. So remember I told you at night your eyes open up? So the red light preserves your night vision. So if you have even a bright red flashlight or a white light, makes your eyes close up. And then it takes 20 minutes or so for your eyes to adjust again. So you can see that really dim stuff. Okay? Thank you. All right. So hearing none. Oh, that's the wrong thing. So what we'll do now is we're going to go around, come up here, look at these scopes. We're going to go around, look at your scopes, and answer your questions, try to help you. All right? Thanks, Jeremy.